No, it was related, and it has been for how we've altered practice. And I think our players have handled it really, really well. Our coaches have. It's been a good an adjustment. And you know what? Honestly, it's proved to be a little bit of a practice right in the middle of training camp. Sometimes I think boredom sets in for some guys, and same as can set in for some guys. And so the kind of the way we've practiced a little bit, I think has raised some spirits, and our guys have handled it really well.
Now, Lincoln up at OU said today that he had an entire position group nearly wiped out. What position group of yours is most affected?
Nobody's been wiped out, but certainly when you have that many positives, then it obviously affects some groups. But I think the way we cross-train our O-line and our D-line and linebackers, nobody's really been affected. We haven't had to really alter practice in terms of we've just set the amount of reps that we're going to take in a period, and we take them. So we don't overwork the players, and we don't over rep them. And so the guys that are healthy and negative, Don, they get their reps just like everybody was here, and then they just maybe get a little bit more rest. And so we haven't cut practice back in terms of time, because that would be too many reps and less time, which equals overwork, and we don't do. And I'm not going to do that. And our players have responded really well.
Go to Sam Khan.
As long as I can find the unmute button. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Sam.
Just curious, with the number of pauses that you guys had, I guess you mentioned you paused the scrimmage. Was there anything else that brought any concern that you would have to suspend for an extended period of time? Or I guess how did you guys arrive at a decision that, hey, okay, we're good enough to go, that we can go ahead and move forward practicing now?
Just Sam, we followed all the protocols in here, and you just look at your numbers, and there's plenty of guys to practice. But when you practice the way we practice, which is extremely fast and I believe very efficient for those of you that have seen us practice, you obviously, when you start getting a few less numbers, then you change the way you practice a little bit. We don't change. We're still going as fast as we normally do, but we've just altered the way we've practiced. But I think, again, our guys have handled it really well.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Sam.
Go to Carlos Silva.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Carlos.
With school starting, I just kind of wanted to know, I guess, what percentage would you say of your players are taking in person compared to the internet?
Yeah, Carlos, I don't know a percentage, but I would say the vast majority of them and the vast majority of their classes are online or virtual. I think there's still some, and at Tech we have some that have gone all virtual from my understanding, as well as hybrid. But even the hybrid classes, like one of the players just told me before practice today, they split them up alphabetically like 30%, and they're only going to class like 1 out of 3 days, and then the other 2. So that's still a little bit higher percentage virtually than in class, it sounds like to me.
And just to follow up on that, maybe it'll be my last one. I guess from your perspective, or maybe the players, I guess how much more difficult is it from a scheduling standpoint, or has it made it a little bit easier for y'all in terms of practices and all that?
Being online.
For having the virtual compared to in-person?
Oh, no, because they're most of them are still virtual 9 a.m. class or a virtual 10:30 class and those kind of I think there's some of those virtual classes that are at your own pace, which means that they won't do work for a month and then try to catch back up in October, just like we all did,
Go to Max Olson.
What's up, Max?
Hey, Coach. Just wanted to specify, since the email didn't say, was your coaching staff impacted by these 21 positives, or is this just players?
I didn't have any full-time staff. I had a young coach that tested positive, and he's been quarantined, but not any full-time guys or any full-time staff.
Gotcha. How has it been just adjusting to this camp is there anything you guys are doing that's really unique in terms of your meetings or your practices to just sort of try and brace for whatever could happen?
Max, I think wearing masks is pretty unique. Splash guards on the helmets. We take helmets off for a walkthrough, and all the players are like yelling at everybody, mask up. And if somebody forgets their mask, they keep their helmet on because it's got a splash guard. Yeah, that's extremely unique. I wear a shield out there. Look, I mean, like I ought to have a blowtorch, coming in to practice or something. It's just, I think that is all weird and unique, and we've kind of just accepted it, and you just kind of move on, and we stay within our protocols. And certainly the last, several days, I've altered the way we've practiced and changed it, and it's been pretty cool because, guys, we've been talking about this since, I think internally for us as a staff in May and June. Hey, what's happening? What's going to happen in August and September when we do have some positives? And I think the Big 12 knew we were going to have positives because they put 2 bye weeks in everybody's schedule. And they scheduled the Big 12 championship for the 12th with the ability to maybe move it back to the 19th. So we're anticipating this. And just for me right now, it's the opportunity to kind of put into play what me and the coaches and Dave Scholl's our strength coach and Drew Kruger, our trainer, what we kind of thought up during the summer. Hey, if we have some positives and our numbers go down just a little bit, we're gonna try this from a practice standpoint, because I believe I have a sincere responsibility as the head coach to keep the healthy, negative young men in the program sharp and their conditioning at a high level, and then wrap our arms around the guys that are in quarantine. So we kind of anticipated all this, to be honest with you, and it's kind of something that we're able to put in play, and I think potentially even learn, Max, of how to maybe practice in October if this comes back up again for us in October.
Go to Chuck Carlton.
Hi, man. I
Hi,
was
Chuck.
just wondering if you had this come up during a game week with this sort of numbers in terms of positive tests, could you navigate that and actually play a game, or how difficult a challenge that would be? And I guess the other thing, you mentioned cross-training. Are you looking at maybe, offensive linemen you can play on defense if need be, or vice versa in that sort of situation? And has anybody stood out to you, I guess?
Yeah, Chuck, not yet from that sort of cross-training. A little bit more center to guard, guard to tackle, tackle to guard, which I know doesn't maybe sound like much, but moving from guard where you're protected to out on an island at tackle, that's different. It really is different. DB, safeties to corners, that's a whole nother world. It's a whole different communication piece. That's where, that's where we're really cross-training the most, not so much O to D or D to O. And then your first question, to go back to your first question, Chuck, I think, depending on what standard or threshold the Big 12, I don't think the NCAA is going to put one, so it's per conference, of whatever the number of quarantined players are. If you're under the threshold, you're going to have to learn how to play and learn how to practice with it. And so I certainly think any of the teams that have had a few guys in quarantine, you've kind of started getting a little taste of that a little bit. Certainly if you're over whatever threshold they say, then you're gonna look ahead 2 weeks and kind of plan out your attack, because obviously you've got too many numbers, whatever that number ends up being, which none of us know right now.
Go back to Don Williams.
So, Matt, in addition to that number of 21, are there any other players who are not positive but are having to isolate because of close contact?
Yeah,
How many?
I don't have an exact number.
Substantial number or small number?
I think anytime you have 21 positives, that's a number that you have to, look at from a practice standpoint. So I don't know the adjective substantial, what that would mean. We've got some out. They're coming back. We've got guys coming back about every other day. So guys are coming back. Guys get tweaked. We got ankles. Coaches have dealt with this for so long because it's injury. It's just like injuries. In football, significantly, because you got numbers, you got significant numbers. You can run practice for a long, long time. It just looks a little different sometimes.
Go to Chuck Hines.
Good afternoon, Coach.
Hey, Chuck.
Hey, I was curious about Tyree Wilson, if you could talk about him a little bit and potentially what he brings to your program, and then I have a follow-up.
Okay. Length, athleticism, a guy that has played. You know, he played a role last year as a redshirt freshman at A&M and rotated in, had some TFLs and a few tackles, and for a young guy played a good role for them. You know, we'll see about the waiver if he ends up getting the waiver, and I think he's got a chance to be in that rotation at the D-line and help us significantly.
I was going to ask you about the waiver with regard to a couple of your players. Do you think with the NCAA giving everybody an extra year with the fall that helps their case, or does that play into it at all?
I would think they probably are going to, read those, Chuck, on an individual basis because I think everybody's in a different situation. But certainly I think some of the COVID-related waivers are applicable this time around.
Go to Jarrett Johnson.
Unmute him, Dowdy.
I thought it did.
There we go.
There we go.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Sorry.
Good.
Hey, I was going to ask about Wilson, but I just want to ask, with the season being just a couple weeks away, do you feel like your roster's set, or are you also actively looking to add to the roster?
Depends on how good a player he is, Jarrett.
So is that a yes? You might still be looking to add?
As long as I got open roster spots, we'll always look to add. I got to recruit and develop around here, so if they can come help us and they're available, then as soon as those roster spots are full, then we'll quit looking. So to answer your question directly, they're not full yet. We're close, but we're not.
Go to Phil Mayer.
It's a good question.
Hey, Coach.
He's on to something.
I just wanted to ask, what would sort of went into the decision of giving Xavier White a scholarship, and what was that moment like telling him that he got it?
Phil, it's one of the best moments you can ever have as a head coach. There's a few of these. See kids, young men graduate, see young men that are first-generation college grads, I think is some of the memories for me over the last 7 years that I really cherish. Awarding a walk-on, a scholarship, that he's really earned it, and it's available at the same time. And we say that in here. To be a walk-on, you have to earn it, and it has to be available. And so it's not only, it's supply and demand, and there was one available. He absolutely earned it. He's worked himself, right into a role. He did it a year ago as a true freshman or a true sophomore, and then got hurt early in September, worked his way back, surgeries, and we moved him to running back. He's had a tremendous attitude. He's going to be in the rotation. How much he's going to be in the rotation is still up to him to earn those reps. But what a cool moment, especially for his grandpa and his family to be a part of it. His grandpa being a Red Raider, and he's a third-generation Red Raider, is pretty special. That's one of those you'll always remember as a head coach.
Okay, awesome. And then I have one more. How much of a challenge is it sort of to evaluate your team and know what you have, especially at certain positions with so many players missing because of COVID-19 and from isolation?
Oh, I think we've gotten good evaluations on guys, and depending on the position and who's in or who's out, I think you've gotten pretty good evaluations. And it's also an opportunity to evaluate a lot of other guys. Some guys get injured or some guys go into quarantine. Guys have earned reps, and we always say around here, you can't lose your job because you're injured or because you're in quarantine, but you can certainly lose your job while you're injured or while you're in quarantine because of the play of someone else. And it's the whole Wally Pipp, Lou Gehrig. You kind of got to look like you got a Yankees jersey on today. You ought to know that story. Do you know that story?
Yes, I definitely do.
All right. That's that. But you know what? I couldn't see Padres on this Zoom call, so I respect that. They're hot right now, too, by the way. They're on a little bit of a roll, right?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. You didn't think I knew MLB, did you?
No, I didn't.
I really don't. I just got lucky on that one.
We'll go to Sam Kahn and then Don Williams to end it.
Hey, Matt, you mentioned a little bit about Tyree earlier. I'm curious. I think he put his name in the portal back, I want to say in February.
February.
So how do you bring a guy in during pandemic, obviously, with just some of the challenges that come with recruiting during that time. How did that come about that you guys ended up bringing him on?
Yeah, Sam, it's tough, and Zoom, FaceTimes, phone calls, old school letter writing, everything that you can. I believe one of the best things we have going for us at Texas Tech is our people, our coaching staff and our recruiting staff, the people of Lubbock, the support of the Red Raider Nation, the basketball games that we had, that we brought them to Kentucky and Kansas, that we got lucky. That first Saturday in March when we had the big one, we had a decent amount of juniors in. But a guy like Tyree that you mentioned as a transfer portal guy, you got to do your best. Virtual tours over Zoom. Our recruiting staff, our social media staff have done a tremendous job in presenting our facilities and the living arrangements that we have for these guys, and tours. But then just FaceTiming them and develop relationships as best you can. And getting guys to trust in you, and Tyree and his mom, went through the recruiting process for a long time, and respect how they handled it very professionally, and allowed us to really present Texas Tech and what we can do for Tyree, and he chose us, and we're excited that he's a part of the team. And he'll be here. He's got 3 years left. If he gets the waiver with the new rule that went in Friday, potentially could have 4 with us. And so we'll see what the waiver says and go from there. But, you just got to get creative and work really hard at it.
All right, we'll
On
finish.
that note, I'm curious, what were your thoughts on the ruling, the eligibility ruling, and how that might affect your team?
Sam, I think it's tremendous. I think it's one of the best things our student athlete initiatives that the NCAA has done. I felt like, I'll just speak on Texas Tech's behalf, but I think for our players in our locker room, when I was able to tell them that, and they knew it was coming because we were pretty open with it and transparent about it, that it was going, and that I was fully supporting it, you could just feel an emotional kind of burden just be lifted from them, that you know what, 1 game, 5 games, 10 games, it doesn't matter. I've got a chance to come back next year, and I can do it all over again if I choose. And some guys may not choose to do that, and I'm talking about seniors now, and some may. And then the underclassmen, oh man, am I going to, is this how my junior year is going to go? I'm going to get 1 game and be done and be a senior. And you already had 2 games taken away from you, and we only had a 10-game schedule. And I just think emotionally they're able to let it go now. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we have 2 or 3 no contests in a row because we have too many in quarantine, or maybe we get unlucky and our opponents for a couple weeks in a row, we don't have a game. I just think the emotional maturity of a football team this year in 2020 will actually go a long way in saying who wins close games and who really, maybe there's a lot of teams that are real similar, and who stays injury-free, who stays COVID-free at the right time, and there's probably got to be a little luck involved, and I think some emotional maturity has got to come to the forefront to win some close games this year. I think it's a little bit of a different variable, and I think for us it was, I think it was a relief for those guys, and I applaud the NCAA for doing it. It'll be expensive for a lot of athletic departments, and hats off and much respect to Kirby Hokut. He hadn't flinched one bit. He's got these guys' back. He's a player's AD, and he's gonna be there for them, and we're gonna be able to do it here at Tech.
We'll go to Don to finish up.
Matt, TJ indicated last week that he had done what he needed to do and said, see y'all between the lines. Can you update us on his status?
He's talking about the lanes, bowling lanes. He's becoming a PBA bowler, Don.
How is he in regard to football?
A little out of shape, as you would expect from missing a couple weeks of practice. A little skinnier, but Scholes will take care of that. TJ will take care of that. He looked good out there today. Caught the balls. His hands haven't changed. He's really got soft hands, and I still think he's the best red zone receiver in the Big 12. I'll stand by that.
Hey Xavier, I'm gonna probably ask the question everyone wants to ask, but I guess what was it like to learn that you got to scholarship?
It was really amazing, just the way they kind of presented it to me, and just my family kind of introducing me. I received a scholarship, and it was just a great feeling.
I guess for you, when did you kind of know something special was kind of happening? I know you said you were shaking at the end of that video, but I guess when did you kind of realize that?
Kind of during the meeting when he kind of told everybody to unmute the mics, my uncle's photo kind of popped up, and I was looking like, hold on, like why is my uncle in this team meeting? And then they kind of went on, and then he said his just a little rant about how I got the scholarship, and it was just that's about it.
Last one from me, I guess, just for you, making that move back to running back, I guess, what was the conversation, and I guess what's it been like going from wide receiver to running back?
Really just Coach Yost got with me. He kind of met with me, and he told me he just wants to put the ball in my hands more. Just it's an easier way to get me to have the football and make plays.
Anybody else have any questions for Xavier? Don Williams, there you go.
Hey Xavier, to what extent, if any, did Texas Tech recruit you at Monterey? What kind of contact was there between the staff and you?
Really at Monterey, it was Kingsbury staff, and I kind of had a couple game visits, and I talked to a couple coaches, but really with Kingsbury kind of staff, I didn't really get much love from them. And then when I went to my JUCO, Coach Wells' staff, Tom Riddall, went up to my JUCO, and he seen me there playing, and I caught his attention.
And how motivated were you to play back in your hometown or to come back to Lubbock?
Just really kind of throughout my high school career, just Texas Tech kept popping up, and then JUCO popped up, Texas Tech popped up again, and it just I feel like it just had a sign just me to come back and play in front of my hometown, and then just really how my uncle Josh Washington played here, and then my grandpa Joe Washington played here. They played basketball here, and it just kind of motivated me to come back to my hometown and play here.
Were you disappointed that especially the senior year that you had at Monterey, with the stats that you put up and the success that the team had, was it disappointing not to be recruited more heavily than you were?
I would honestly say kind of disappointing. But it all worked out in the long run. I just stayed focused and just hard work, and it got me to where I need to be now.
What did you maybe accomplish your year in JUCO?
Really just hard work. There at the JUCO, you just don't really have a lot of resources, and just really just like focus, stay out of the way, and just do your thing there.
When did you, after you had the surgeries, you had surgery on both shoulders,
Yes,
right?
sir, both shoulders.
How long did it take you to get back to where you were fully cleared, and then when you were cleared for contact and when you felt like yourself again?
My first surgery was in October, and then I just got released, I'd probably say about 2 months ago. And just really over quarantine, all the COVID happened, quarantine I just worked hard, and then I feel great now.
What do you think you did at this time last year? Your name was already coming up quite a bit with the coaches saying that they were impressed by what you were doing. What did you do those first couple of weeks that caught people's eye, especially considering that you came in as a walk-on initially?
Really just the main thing what Coach Yost told me, he would put me in tough situations, and I would just execute and make plays. And that's really the main thing.
Was there any intimidation is not the right word, any, lack of a better word, was there any intimidation factor being a new guy walking into a Big 12 program? How did you handle that?
I'll probably say I handled it pretty well. JUCO helped me out a lot, just getting that speed of the game and then just kind of feeling comfortable. And then when I got here, just stay focused and just work my fundamentals.
We'll go to Leah Doherty real quick.
Hey Xavier, you talked a little bit about making the move from wide receiver to running back, how you just wanted the ball in your hands. How has that transition been for you?
I say it changes me pretty well. I mean, Coach Yost can honestly use me a lot. I mean, I can catch the ball very well on a screen pass or motion me out or anything, and it's just more options we can do for the offense for me.
All right, that'll do it for Xavier. We'll have Josh Berger up here in just, or 1 second, Xavier. We got one more from Don.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask you, after you got off to that good start and you're impressing people through August and then got a chance to play and had a 100-yard game, how did you handle the disappointment of your season ending in the 4th game of the year last year?
It kind of hurt pretty bad, but I mean, after Coach Yost kind of had a conversation with me, just telling me that we don't want to risk you playing more and then lose this year, we just went ahead and did the surgery and make sure that I won't have any shoulder problems later on in the long run.
So when I was driving in, like 2 hours, all I was on was just highway, and there were cow fields and everything. And then finally I kind of came up to Lubbock. I was like, oh. I was like, there it is. And when I was kind of on the outskirts of it, I was like, And then when I kind of got more into actual Lubbock by the stadium and stuff, I was like, wow, this is a nice place. And, I mean, it's been awesome. I've really enjoyed it a lot. I mean, it has everything I could want.
So I think I forgot to ask you, but did you actually drive the whole way?
I did. Yeah, 21 hours. Yeah.
So I guess for you, I guess, with that in mind, I guess, what was that process like for you to kind of realize, okay, I like this place, it's worth 21 hours. I guess what really made you feel like this was the place, and what was that drive like for you?
I think I realized Texas Tech was the place for me when I entered the portal, and they were really the first ones to, kind of jump on me and show interest, and they were the first program to offer me an opportunity to play for them. And, that really meant a lot to me because in high school I wasn't heavily recruited. I only had one offer. It was Wofford, and that always kind of put a chip on my shoulder. I was always kind of something in the back of my mind was, I've always wanted to play at this level, but it was kind of, could I? And then, it was an easy decision. But the drive was pretty easy. I like long drives, so it wasn't too bad. It was pretty fun. I got to see a lot of fields and cows, so yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, when we had first spoken that one time, you said you hadn't been to Texas before. Were there any other states you crossed through or anything that you did that you were like, oh, I'm crossing through the state, I want to do this, when you made your trek from Wofford to Texas Tech?
Yeah, I had never been to Texas before I drove down here, but not really. It was just kind of the same thing the whole time. Like once I got outside of Ohio and through Indiana, it was kind of like the same thing for, 12 hours. So I didn't really obviously I know there's a lot more to explore, but I didn't have that opportunity to kind of venture off. It was, I had to get to Lubbock as soon as I could.
And last one for me, just in terms of the offensive line competition, I guess what's it like to know that, like you had mentioned before, that you're going to probably fight for a spot. It seems like there's a lot of guys fighting for spots, and not only that, but there are spots open after a couple of seniors left last year.
Yeah, it's been a competition. There's a competition for both right and left tackle, and guys are competing. It's football. You got to come in, you got to compete every day and do your best, and just stack your days, get better and better, and that's really how it's been. And the three interior guys, Jack and Dawson and Wes, have been huge helps. To see them play and the way they kind of attack the day. They're elite offensive linemen, and it's just kind of fun to be able to play with them and see how they approach football.
Go to Phil Mayer.
starting to get your feet under you at Texas Tech a bit. What have you noticed about the competition level and how different it is here than it was at Wofford?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. I'd say it's faster, but again, you know, Wofford I get was FCS, but I mean we had some dudes at Wofford, so I think being able to play at Wofford and play in the SoCon really prepared me to play at this level. I mean, we played Clemson, played Wyoming, played South Carolina, Ole Miss my freshman year. So, I mean, the competition isn't, you know, anything new. It's just kind of now it's all the time. It's not one game out of the year. It's every practice. It's every game. So.
Okay, I was going to ask, how did that game against Clemson and those other FBS or Power 5 teams you played help prepare you for going up against Big 12 talents?
Honestly, I think getting to see that competition and get to play against them, you really know where you stand and you know how you are as a football player. I mean, Clemson was big. Just kind of getting, I mean, you know, national champions and then national runner-ups. You know, they're the best of the best for a while, and you know, getting to play against them, you know, you really can gauge, you know, how good you are, and again, like I said, where you stand. So that was big. Getting to just play that competition level, and I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. And then last one, you mentioned the speed. Was there sort of a specific element to your game that you worked on in preparation for getting ready to make the jump to the Power 5?
I think definitely like pass pro, just because switching the offenses. Wofford was a spread option, and now I'm in a tempo offense where, you know, we throw the ball a lot. So just, you know, pass setting isn't new to me, but a lot of the techniques and you know, schemes are different here. So pass pro has been like the biggest thing for me. Just, you know, how Coach Farmer wants it, doing it, you know, the way he wants, and trying to, you know, do it at the highest level possible.
Go to Don Williams to end it.
Sorry about that. Back on that Clemson game for a moment. Coaches more than once have referenced that as a reason why they really were sold on your ability. Do you remember who individually you lined up against most that night from that Clemson defensive front?
It was Justin Foster, number 35. I believe he ended up starting in the national championship because Xavier Thomas was injured. I was really hoping I was going to be able to get to play against him, but he was a game-time decision, and I found out before kickoff that he wasn't going to end up playing, and so it was him. And then KJ Henry, he was a 5-star, and then I'm forgetting the other guy's name. It was number 7, but yeah.
To me, if I remember correctly, you said a moment ago Wofford was basically your only offer when you were coming out of high school. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
What size were you back then?
I was actually a little heavier than I am now. I was like 300 pounds, and now I'm like 295. But I was the first offer in Wofford's in the 2016 class, and that was my junior year in the spring. So I got that, and I thought it was just gonna kind of, you know, just be offer after offer. And I mean, I had a lot of interest, but no other schools ever pulled the trigger on me. So, but you know, I'm blessed that I had the opportunity to go to Wofford. I mean, you know, it really made me who I am, to be honest.
So, being from Ohio, you were hoping against for a Big Ten, expecting to be a Big Ten player when you're 17, 18 years old? Or
Yeah, for sure. When I actually growing up, I wasn't an Ohio State fan. I was actually a Wisconsin fan. So, I mean, and they're kind of like the mecca for O-linemen out of college. So I always wanted to go there, and obviously, you know, I'm not big enough, and I didn't get any interest from them. But yeah, and I had an offer from Indiana after I entered the portal, but I just kind of knew Texas Tech was the place for me.
What skills would you say you sharpened the most at Wofford over these last few years, or what aspect of your game?
Probably I'd say mentally, just how I approach the game. You know, just being able to know, going into every game that, I'm mentally prepared. I know what, that defender's going to do, what the defense is going to do. That was big because in high school it was just kind of like, hey, we're going to run this play. You're going to block that guy, and that's it. And at Wofford, it was totally different, and that kind of grew me a lot. And obviously the physical aspect of it, I mean, I grew a ton there, but I'd say mentally was probably the biggest, where I had the biggest growth.
Yeah. Going back to Wisconsin for just a moment. Did you have a favorite Wisconsin offensive lineman?
Yeah, Rob Havenstein, and he's actually the right tackle for the Rams, not the St. Louis, the Los Angeles Rams now. Yeah. So, yeah.
Did you ever have occasion to go to Camp Randall?
No, I didn't. I actually went to Purdue on a game day visit when they played Wisconsin. So I got to see what's his name? Marvin Gordon, or not Gordon. Who's the back for the Chargers? Yeah, Melvin Gordon. Yeah, I got to see him play in person, and that was really cool. So that was the closest I ever got to see them.
Asking Purdue people if you could root for the other team.
Yeah, yeah. Secretly, the whole game, I was like, let's go. Yeah.
So, talking about your drive here to Lubbock, what vehicle were you in?
What? I'm sorry.
On your drive here to Lubbock, when you made that long drive, what vehicle were you in? What type of vehicle?
I drive a 2018 F-150, so it was nice. It wasn't. I had lots of space and just cruising. So.
They have a Texas truck, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. Texas man at heart.
What else have you found that you liked about Texas or about Lubbock? Maybe outside of football. Have you been here long enough yet to?
Yeah, it's been kind of tough, obviously, with Corona. I haven't really been able to go out or do much, just in efforts of preventing contracting it. But I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of been football since I've been here. I haven't really had like a moment to explore or anything. But honestly, on the flip side, there's nothing I dislike about Lubbock. I mean, I think it's a great place, and I'm happy I'm here.